Exciting time for Billy Talent. No, congrats on number one. New
Oh,
song,
thank you
number
very
one.
much. Yeah, that's really cool.
It's getting old hat for you guys though, because leading into the new album, which Crisis of Faith, which we'll talk about in a second, you've released kind of three tracks off of it. They've all gone number one. So
I know it's really it really blows our mind. We know we have great material, but it's nice to have that kind of validation too through the radio. I actually got into my car the other day and was listening to the radio, and as soon as I closed the door, I sat in there with my son, and it said, "In number one, Billy Talent," and I'm like, "All right, check that in." My son's like, "Whoa, that's cool."
that's what it took to get your son to finally think you're cool.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
He's got to think it before that. He has to. And of course, the current song, End of Me, a team up with legendary Rivers Cuomo. How did you guys get together on that one? Because on paper, it seems like an odd one, but it works really well.
Yeah, well, we've always been fans of Weezer. In fact, like when our band started out and we didn't have enough material, we used to cover some songs off of Pinkerton. And anyway, we wrote this song, and our album got delayed because of COVID and stuff like that. And it was all finished and recorded, and we had our versions all mixed and everything like that. And then Ben was listening to it one day with Ian while they were working on some other stuff, and he said, this seems to be influenced by Weezer, and why don't we just send it to Rivers and see if he'll do a verse? And he decided to do it, so it was pretty cool.
Very, very cool. And you guys mentioned the album was done, and then COVID. How frustrating was that for you to be like, man, we've got this wicked album sitting in the can?
Yeah, there was a bit of it. Well, we actually recorded half of our record, and then we were going to work on the rest of the songs and then go in and do the rest. And when we were ready to go do the rest is when COVID really hit. So we were kind of frozen. And then we were like, well, this is okay. We can even work on these songs for a little bit longer. But then it just became like the album's done and we're ready to go. And we'd like to play some shows.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. I did want to touch on the album title, though, Crisis of Faith, because normally an album gets its title from one of the songs. There's no song called Crisis of Faith. So where does the title come from?
Ian brought it to the table, and we thought it was a really good summary of what was happening in the world and how it reflected the songs in the album and the lyrics and everything. And we were struggling with a few names, and that one really stuck out to us. And I'm sorry about all these texts.
Oh, no worries. You're a popular guy.
Like, he's trying to tell me that I have an interview. I'm like doing the interview.
You do?
Anyway, yeah. So Ian came up with the title, and it's a perfect representation of the album. And yeah, it is odd that there's no title, but I don't know. Lately, it just feels like the entire world is having some sort of crisis of faith, and that's kind of a lot of the influence of the record just came from current events and everything.
And you mentioned getting back out and playing shows, which you've done a few. How has it felt for you guys to be back on stage? Is it like visiting an old friend you hadn't seen in forever?
Yeah, it was gratifying in that way. And it was definitely strange to get back and play like after the time off. And we had actually been off for 3 years because we had reached a point in our career where we we could take some time off. So we took a year off. Then we started working on the album for a year, and then COVID happened. But in between shows, it was actually 2 years and 11 months. And it felt really, really good to get back. And I'm looking forward to just kind of that normalcy again.
Nice. Some music news that happened recently that I thought I'd get your thoughts on. Spotify ditched the shuffle on the albums. Like if you're just listening to an album, is that something you guys think about, a band, someone playing an album,
Absolutely. I saw that headline on Twitter the other day that Adele got Spotify to change that, and I don't know how Adele did it, but whatever she did, I think it's a great idea because we do take a serious thought into our sequence on all of our records, and it goes through the band and it goes through revisions, and you try and lay an album out in the old school way where it makes sense and it has like sometimes an A side and a B side, or it's It's funny with this album for us is a lot of the songs that we released already are going to be at the front of the album. So it might in the end work out, maybe people are go beyond that because they've heard those songs. But yeah, I think the sequence means a lot, and I'm glad that they've taken that off.
Yeah, and who knew Adele had that kind of power?
Yeah. She's incredible.
I saw you guys are playing a Christmas show soon in Toronto. Yeah. So I thought maybe I'd dig into your Christmas memories a bit. What's like the most memorable gift you remember unwrapping?
Oh, a PV bass amp that I got when I was about 16 years old or something, and I had seen it on the buy and sell, and my dad took me to go look at it, and it was pretty expensive. And he was like, "I don't know, what do you think?" And I'm like, "I don't know, it's pretty expensive." And then we left, and then my dad went back and bought it, and he stashed it in his closet, and I ended up seeing it. And when they weren't home, I brought it out and tested it out and stuff like that, and then tucked it back in the closet. And I just couldn't wait till Christmas so I could have my big amp. It was massive. So
you were a snooper, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I was a third child.
Yeah. So you were taught how to snoop.
Yeah.
I also know that you are a huge Leafs fan. That has to be frustrating overall.
Oh yeah. It's a tough. It's like some sort of masochist thing. I think you have to have some sort of love for suffering.
What are your outlooks on them this year? They came out a little rough, but it looks like they've righted the ship a bit.
They're playing great and they're playing fantastic, but it doesn't matter until they make the playoff, or until they make the playoffs and do something in the playoffs. So it's nice to watch them play so strongly because they've been pretty consistent, and I'm enjoying how they're playing. But I'll believe it when the playoffs come and everything steps up.
And you did that playlist for the Amazon thing, and I was looking through it, and I was like, not being a Leafs fan, I was like, how did he not put Loser in this playlist?
Or Fallen Leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Either of those, right? The other thing that happened musically that I recently that I thought I'd get your thoughts on, because it's Canadian music, and I don't know if you've seen this or not. There's the beef now between Danko and Monster Truck.
We were just talking about that. I'm at rehearsal right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it.
You don't have a side or a thought on that?
I have a side and I have thoughts, but I'm not going to put them out there.
Okay, fair enough. I was amazed.
I know both parties very well.
Yeah, and I've interviewed both. They're both very pleasant groups of people. I was very shocked at how forward Danko was in his tweets.
Well, it's not off of his brand. That's what he does. He calls people out on that kind of stuff. And I was surprised about the choice for Monster Truck, but I'll leave it at that.
Sounds good. I don't want to get you in trouble. So you guys are touring. I know you were just out here to do Rock the Hub in Truro in the summer. First off, how was that experience for you? And then does that delay us seeing you anytime soon?
That was definitely an East Coast play for us to try and get out there and see our fans. And I don't know when we'll be out there next. Probably in another festival environment, I'm sure. Yeah, that was fantastic. It was a great show. It was muddy. I went the night before with my cousin who lives out in Nova Scotia, and it was. My boots actually wore running shoes, and they got destroyed. But it was great. It was good to be back on stage. The crowd was awesome. Yeah.
Do you prefer the festival shows over maybe just the regular headline, because there is a bit more of the camaraderie? You get to see a bunch more people. Do you prefer that festival feel?
Every type of touring offers its own things, and I do love the festivals because we've played the biggest crowds that we've ever played for, that they've been at festivals, and it is cool to see other bands and play with other bands that you may not get to tour with. But touring in general and playing clubs or playing arenas, they all offer you something that's pretty rad. So I do like those shows that are 1,000 seats and everybody is right there and everybody's a huge Billy Talent fan and they're all screaming the lyrics back at you and stuff like that. And those are probably my favorites. But
Yeah, those would be special. Just having that intimacy with the fans. Those would be cool. That's awesome, man. I will let you get back to rehearsal. I'm sure that's somewhat important.
Yeah, we got to stay sharp.
And we will hopefully see you out here again in another festival setting, and continued success.
Right on, man.
Thanks.
Take care. Thanks a lot.